There are very important developments in the war between Ukraine and Russia. The Ukrainian army won a very serious success in the war by carrying out operations one after the other. Russian leader Vladimir Putin then took a decision that surprised everyone. This decision caused many discussions. These are the most critical days of the war. Anka News is reporting all the conflicts in this war and all the moves made in the background for you. Let's start if you're ready. The Ukrainian army has significantly stepped up its operations against Russia in recent days. Russia was forced to retreat from many towns it occupied. Russia was left defenseless in the face of these operations of the Ukrainian army, because Russia did not expect a conflict at this time. The Russian army thought that this war would stop in the winter. Eastern Ukraine has very harsh winter conditions. These cities have transportation and communication problems due to heavy snowfall in winter. The Russian government planned that there would be no conflict in these regions during the winter season. At this time, the Russian army wanted to reverse its defeat in the war by conducting military training. But nothing turned out the way Putin wanted. Europe is experiencing the warmest winter in history. Climate scientist Maximiliano Herrera announced that 8 countries, including Poland, Denmark, and Czech Republic, experienced the warmest January on record. Measurements in Germany also broke regional temperature records. Herrera described this as the most extreme heat event in European history. In addition, Alex Burkill, a meteorologist at the UK Meteorological Directorate, said, "There has been unprecedented extreme heat over a wide area. Ukraine is also experiencing one of the warmest winters in history. That's why there is no break in the war, and the Ukrainian army continues its operations." Russia is suffering heavy losses in these operations. In total, more than 110,000 soldiers have died in the Russian army. The Russian army is helpless thanks to Ukraine's counter-operations. Russia needs time. But Putin is afraid to declare a ceasefire or stop the war, because that would mean that Putin would have to admit his defeat in the war. Protests against Putin are growing every day in Russia. The Kremlin leadership constantly denies failure in this war. Russian media outlets controlled by Putin are constantly manipulating the war. The Russian people are constantly being propagandized. If Putin stops the war, everyone will realize that Russia has been defeated. Desperate, Putin has a very important opportunity. Patriarch Kirill, Archbishop of the Russian Orthodox Church, has called on both Russian and Ukrainian forces to stop fighting before and during Christmas. The Orthodox celebrate Christmas every year on January 6th and 7th. Patriarch Kirill said that a Christmas ceasefire should be declared from 12 a.m. on January 6th until 12 p.m. on January 7th. Kirill's call was supported by the Russian people. Opponents of the war in Russia said it was immoral to continue the war, even on holy days. This pressure has been a great opportunity for Putin. Russia, which has been occupying Ukraine since February 24th, announced a ceasefire between January 6th and 7th. Putin plans to replenish the army with new ammunition. Russian soldiers, who have been on the battlefield every day for nearly a year, are also planning to rest during this ceasefire. Russian soldiers were very tired because of this war. Due to heavy losses in the Russian army, Russian soldiers were constantly on the battlefield. This situation caused the soldiers to get very tired and to rebel against their commanders due to the intense duty hours. Putin wants to ensure that Russian soldiers also rest during this ceasefire. Putin also using this ceasefire to improve his reputation all over the world. Putin, who makes extremely threatening statements and threatens the security of the whole world, is suffering a great loss of reputation due to the war in Ukraine. By stopping the war on Christmas days, Putin wants to be seen as a peaceful politician all over the world. But no one believes Putin anymore. Zelensky made an important statement after Putin's ceasefire decision. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met in Kiev with U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Jack Reed and a member of that committee, Senator Angus King. During the meeting, Zelensky said that he sees Russia's 36-hour ceasefire offer as a manipulation in which the aggressor is trying to hide its real military plans and intentions. Zelensky's statement attracted worldwide attention. Everyone knows that Putin's ceasefire decision has no peaceful purpose. War experts emphasized that the ceasefire was a necessity for Putin. Putin was planning to increase his reputation by declaring a ceasefire. But after the ceasefire, Putin's reputation has fallen even more. Experts have another interesting claim. Putin may extend the ceasefire or announce new ceasefire decisions. By declaring a ceasefire on Christmas days, Putin may be trying to get the Russian people and the whole world used to it. Having suffered a major defeat in Ukraine, Putin may be forced to withdraw from the territories he occupied by declaring a ceasefire. This is the first time that Putin, who has always practiced aggressive policies, has declared a ceasefire. This could be one of the breaking points of the war. Putin may decide on new ceasefires for a longer period. On the other hand, the Ukrainian army is preparing for all eventualities. Ukraine has recently received new support from Germany and the United States. The German government has agreed to send armored military vehicles to Ukraine. These vehicles are expected to arrive in Ukraine in a very short time. The Ukrainian army is growing stronger every day. The Russian army is melting fast. The United States of America has also made a statement about the aid it will send to Ukraine. White House Representative Karine Jean-Pierre said that the United States has allocated more than $3 billion in military aid to Ukraine. Thanks to this aid, the strength of the Ukrainian army is greatly increasing. The modern weapons in the hands of the Ukrainian army are reducing all the power of the Russian army. The Ukrainian army has been conducting very strategic operations since the beginning of the war. Dozens of ammunition depots of the Russian army have been destroyed. As a result, the Russian army suffered a very serious military loss. According to the data shared by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Russian army has lost 3,066 tanks, 6,125 armored vehicles, 2,062 artillery systems, 1,844 drones since the beginning of the war. Due to these losses, the Russian army is experiencing an ammunition crisis. An interesting solution was found in the Russian army, whose stock of weapons and armor also decreased. The Russian government opened the weapon depots left over from the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The weapons found in these warehouses and produced in the 1970s were distributed to Russian soldiers. The effectiveness of these weapons is very low. Russian soldiers cannot conduct successful operations using these weapons. The Russian army is having a very hard time. What do you think about the success of the Ukrainian army in this war? Do you think Putin will extend the ceasefire? Do you think Putin will retreat in this war? What is your opinion about the losses suffered by Russia? Share your views with us.